In 2022, NASA sent a spacecraft further than any human vehicle has ever gone, and nobody was on board. This is the story of how far too far actually is. Let's start close to home. The International Space Station orbits about 250 miles above your head. If you could drive straight up at highway speed, you'd reach it in 4.5 hours. 215 miles. That's where humans have lived continuously for over 23 years. It's practically our backyard. Now pull back, way back. The Moon, 238,900 miles from Earth. 1,000 times farther than the space station. When Apollo astronauts went there, it took 3 days. 3 days of crossing empty space with nothing between them and home but vacuum. And the farthest any human has ever been from Earth, Apollo 13. April 15, 1970, an emergency that flung 3 astronauts around the far side of the Moon on a trajectory nobody planned. 248,655 miles from home. That record held for 52 years. Then Artemis I changed everything. November 16, 2022, Kennedy Space Center, Florida. The Space Launch System ignites, the most powerful rockets in Saturn V. 8.8 million pounds of thrust push Orion off the pad and into the sky. On board the spacecraft, 4 seats, life support systems, oxygen, water, food for 3 weeks, and nobody in any of the seats. 18 minutes after launch, Orion separates from the upper stage. Solar arrays unfold, translunar injection fires, and Orion leaves Earth orbit, aimed at the Moon. The distance counter starts climbing. Day 4, Orion passes just 81 miles above the lunar surface. The optical navigation cameras record craters, ridgelines, shadows. High-definition footage streamed back across 239,000 miles of space. Nobody looks out the window. But Orion doesn't stop at the Moon. It fires its main engine and enters a distant retrograde orbit, DRO. Distant, because this orbit sits about 43,000 miles from the Moon's surface. Not a low orbit, not even close. Retrograde, because it moves opposite to the Moon's own orbit around Earth. Why DRO? 2 reasons. First, it's extraordinarily stable. Uses almost no fuel to maintain. You can park a spacecraft here and it barely drifts. Second, it's far enough to test how every system on Orion performs when Earth is 250,000 miles away. Communications, navigation, thermal control, power, life support. Everything that would need to work for a crew, tested without a crew. And the counter keeps climbing. November 28, 2022. Flight Day 13, 268,563 miles from Earth. The Apollo 13 record broken by nearly 20,000 miles. At that distance, Earth fits behind your thumb. The cameras capture what becomes the mission's most iconic image, Orion's solar arrays in the foreground, Earth setting behind the Moon's horizon. The Earth set shot, the farthest a human-rated spacecraft has ever traveled. And the crew cabin is empty. 6 days in DRO testing. Validating. Proving the spacecraft works at a distance where help is 4 days away. Then Orion fires its engine. 1 minute, 45 seconds, and leaves the orbit, heading home. One last flyby, 80 miles above the Moon. The cameras record the surface one final time. Then the long coast back to Earth. December 11th, Orion hits the atmosphere at 25,000 miles per hour, Mach 32. But it doesn't plunge straight in, it uses a skip reentry, dipping into the upper atmosphere, bouncing back out into space, then diving in again. Like a stone skipping across water, this spreads the heat across 2 passes instead of 1. Reduces peak forces 5 TOC degrees on the heat shield. 11 parachutes deploy, splashdown in the Pacific Ocean. 25.5 days, 1.4 million miles traveled, 161 test objectives completed, a distance record shattered by 20,000 miles. And nobody was on board. That was the entire point. Because when NASA sends 4 astronauts on this same road in March 2026, they'll know every mile of it, every system tested, every record broken, every risk mapped. The farthest road ever driven. Driven empty, so the next trip doesn't have to be. This is Stardrift FM. Keep drifting.